Hey everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to Cat
Hello.
Response Live. Hey Imke, great to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Hi, Aaron. Yeah, good. Great. Thanks. Really well.
Great.
And you?
Now, yeah, also perfect. Happy to have you on the show since it was 1.5 years ago that you joined us.
Yeah,
So I'm very happy to see you
that's
again.
correct.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about poor man's data warehouse. You see it on the bottom of the screen here, scrolling by. If you like this type of content, we do this every week on Thursdays, 4 o'clock. Don't forget to do a thumbs up. That helps us in our visibility. Really appreciate it. And if you want more of this content, you can subscribe to LinkedIn or our YouTube channel, where all the episodes can be watched back, mostly in Dutch. So maybe you are not Dutch speaking if you watch this. Yeah, it's unfortunately all in Dutch. Maybe in the future with AI we can translate it faster. Who knows? And if you want to learn more about Power BI and Power Apps and Automate, then maybe check out our online learning platform, which does contain English versions of the trainings, Power Up, and you find it on our website if you want to do a demo. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this episode, and we do a nice demo. Imke will do a nice demo on the steps to be using that. And if you have any questions in the meantime, just use the commenting options in YouTube or LinkedIn, and and give us an hello, like Koosje did already. Hello, Koosje. Nice that you're watching. So let's get started with this episode. Yeah.
Yes, thank
Um,
you. So shall I start?
Yes. Can you shortly introduce yourself, Imke,
Yes.
before
So
we start? Yeah.
my name is yes, my name is Imke Feldmann. I'm the blogger behind the biaccountant.com. So some of you who are around in the Power BI space for a while might know that blog. Actually, I I am one of the early adopters, I would say, of Power BI. I started with Power BI even before it was invented.
Hmm.
Back in the days when Rob Colley was starting the movement, I would say, on his Power Pivot Pro blog, I started to get my head around Power Pivot and then later on Power Query, which I liked a lot more than Power Pivot actually.
Yeah.
And I started basically the self-service BI movement back
Yeah.
in the early days. Um,
Yeah. You were very early
and
then, huh?
one
Nice.
actually,
Yeah.
it's correct. Sorry. So
Yeah.
I believe that one reason why I loved it so much is that before that I was in finance as a controller and then finance director later on. So I was really deep in at the user side basically. So
Mm.
did a lot of stuff with Excel and so on. And when I saw these things coming around, I really thought, well, that's
Yeah.
that's some really great stuff, and that would be so helpful. So
Yeah.
basically, I saw both ends of the spectrum, and yeah, so that's what I did. Um,
I hear that a lot, that a lot of users first discover it and then they think, hey,
mm,
wow, more people should be aware of this and gonna help out. I've got an energy from that. So yeah,
yeah.
interesting to hear. Um,
Mm,
so yeah, indeed, let's get started. So I will
mm,
add your screen, because what you're gonna do is show now how you can create a data warehouse solution, right? Using Power BI
mm,
technology and a little bit of Azure, I believe. Um, so take us through the
correct.
story, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, I've added it. Yeah, I can see it.
Super. Yeah. So I called it Poor Man's Data Warehouse in Power BI. And so, if you want to get in contact with me, you can follow my blog or contact me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or whatever. I even have a small YouTube channel. Just reach
Yeah.
out if there are any questions or things you would like to know. And yeah, today's topic is a so-called data warehouse. And so in a very simple form. So I would define it as that here data will be stored in a usable format and be handed out to those who need it and are authorized to it. We basically are about to create some sort of a central repository of clean data in an enterprise, which we can use as a single point of truth. And we want to use Power Query for it because Power Query is easy to use and it's something that many end users or business users are familiar with by now. Power Query in the first generation was actually in Excel, and so we still have it there. So all Power Query transformations that we do there are loaded into Excel, either into a sheet or into the data model there, Power Pivot data model. And later Power BI came by, but there the structure was similar. So everything you do there will be loaded into that file and only into that file. So if you had transformations that would be interesting for in other files or applications as well, you would have to recreate them there and also rerun all the transformation steps. Of course, some people stage data in Excel and for later reuse, but as soon as your data goes over 1 million rows, that is also not a very viable solution in there. So it was great to see that a next generation of Power Query entered the market, and that actually was dataflows. I don't know how many of you are using dataflows, but
Yeah, we have
yeah.
could link it to the message you see below the screen. So if you go to menti.com and use this code, one of the questions is indeed how often do you use data flows? So and also where you store your data, we ask. Someone already answered that question. Where do you store your data? In Azure, thanks to Imke. So you already motivated someone. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Burkhard.
So yeah, nice to read. So please join us in this short questionnaire. Then I will share shortly also the answers. One question on this, because in the Gen 1, that's the Power Query that's in Power BI Desktop, I assume, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Power BI.
And how did you load it into Excel then? Because you couldn't write it directly into Excel, or could you? How did that work then?
No. You would no. What some people did was they would use Power Query in Excel to transform the data and load
Excel
it
itself.
into a sheet, and then import the Excel stuff into Power BI.
Clear.
So this is
because Power Query is also in Excel. Yeah, sorry.
Exactly.
We have sometimes a lag in time, so sometimes we'll probably talk to each other. But Gen 2, that's not the Gen 2 that's in Fabric, right? Because there's also a Gen 2 in Fabric.
No,
this is the data flow. That Gen 3?
That will be Gen 3. That's Gen 3.
All right.
So
sorry to interrupt.
Generation. So I mean that's not an official naming, but this is how I see the Power Query generations. So first it was a really standalone solution. Next iteration was dataflows, which is basically Power Query in the cloud. It's called dataflows, and the advantage is that you basically can do your transformations there once, and you can serve multiple Power BI and Excel clients. So in Power Query, basically, there are connectors to data flows. So if you transform your data in a data flow, you can consume it via a data flow connector from within Power Query. So it's just the usage of this data as a central repository is limited to Power Query, because you need this data flow connector, which is in Power Query and also actually in Power Automate. But yeah, so other clients, if people want to ingested from SQL Server or something like it, they wouldn't be able to do it. So it's a client limitation. The next limitation we have, unless you have incremental refresh, which is only available in premium for dataflows, with every dataflow refresh, all the data will be loaded from the source. And this can become problematic. For example, if you have large data and complex data transformations, then things can get really slow. And in cases where it's possible to do the data transformations before and then just do and store them in a transformed manner and just do the transformations to newly created data, then of course it would make sense to have an option to stage data and only transform the newly data. And another limitation, even if you can use incremental refresh because you're using premium per user or capacity, you will get a problem if the data becomes unavailable at the source. For example, currently I do projects with where consuming API data from social media, for example, this APIs only return data from the last 30 days or the last 60 days. And if I want to do reports that cover larger times frame, then I don't have the data anymore. So that's also a use case where it would make sense to ingest the data and store it in my own repository and start to basically build up a history of data that I then can use for reporting purposes. So that's
one other thing sorry, Imke. One other thing I'm thinking about as a use case maybe is when you want to have snapshots of what was the situation last week or what was the situation last year.
Exactly.
And that can also be one use case maybe. And
exactly.
one other question that triggers me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a small delay. That's very noisy. Sorry. You were in the Germany, right? It's not that far away, but there's a little bit lack of in the audio. But the staging of data, I'm also curious about that. Can you tell a little bit more? Is it always beneficial to do first a staging table and then another query on top of that in Power Query or not?
No, it depends. It depends.
It's always consultancy.
It depends.
In what cases is it useful? Yeah.
How would we consultants earn our money then without it? If everything was so simple. No, staging is usually beneficial if you have complex transformations. So if you even if you have very large data and you have almost little or just easy transformations on it, staging wouldn't make sense because staging itself also consumes resources.
Right.
And so you will have you will need to find the trade-off on a case-by-case basis, basically.
Clear.
But if your transformation take half an hour or so, then staging could be beneficial. Yeah.
Okay. Now, version 3.
And regarding all these limitations, actually, we have a third generation now, which is dataflows Gen 2 in Fabric. So that's brand new. And you can basically load your data into a data lake or SQL Server. And it's really good, no question about it. But I must say it's in really early days. And to figure out the pricing is not so easy in beforehand, I must say. So I haven't done very much for it with it in real life, I must admit. So of course, technically that's a very good solution, I would say. But if for whatever reason you're not going that route, there's an alternative, and that's the topic of today's presentation. And so the alternative on a shoestring that I'm going to present today is that we use the dataflows Gen 2, Gen 1. So the first generation of dataflows to actually write into an Azure Blob storage. So what would happen is that you connect an Azure Blob storage to the dataflow, and with every dataflow refresh, one new CSV file will be created. So basically, you will create a refresh history in your blob storage, and blob storage is a solution that can be accessed by many different clients as well. So it's more open than the generic Power Query dataflow connector. So that's overcomes that limitation. Yeah, you have your refresh history there. Can be accessed by many different clients, also Power Automate. You don't need, you can basically, this allows you to reference data flows, other data flows that are writing into that blob storage, basically without the need to, for premium. So if you are using data flows only with a pro license, then you might have experienced that limitation, that if you want to reference another data flow from within the current data flow, you need premium license for it. But if you are accessing the result of the data flow that sits in the data Azure Blob storage, then you don't need a premium license for it. So that's basically a nice workaround for that. Yeah, and here I will share the slides afterwards. Oh, okay. So here so the question is how we can do that. So the steps on what to do to create such a solution is we first need to create a blob storage in Azure. And in there, some prerequisites needs to be met. And I highlighted the top ones here, but there's more that you can read in the link below. And I will share this presentation for you later. And so you need to basically, you can, when you create a blob storage in Azure, you can leave all default settings as they are, with the exception of the hierarchical namespace option. This is something that you need to activate. It should reside, the blob storage should ideally reside in the same region than your Power BI solution. You need to assign the owner role to the Power BI Fabric administrator to later set up the connection from Power BI to that Azure Blob storage, because they need to find each other basically, and to enable, for being able to do that, you need the Fabric admin needs to have an owner role to that blob storage. And the users need a different role. They need a blob data contributor or owner role to later use the connection. And then there are prerequisites on the Power BI side. Actually, you can connect to Azure Blob on two levels from within Power BI. You can connect to it from the tenant level. So you can make a connection on the whole tenant level, which gives the users the option then to connect workspaces to it. Or you can do it on a workspace level only. And then there you can use multiple different blob storages. And
are you going to show it, Imke, also in Power BI itself in a minute? How do you set it up?
Of course.
Yeah. Great.
Of course, that's just a high-level overview
Yeah.
over the steps.
That's perfect.
And I will definitely show it in the demo later.
Great.
Yeah, that's great. And you need to be Power BI admin and have access to the Azure subscription to make that connection. So let's just do a demo and see how this works. So in here, I will log into the Azure portal. So I have to run this. Oh, hang on a second.
No problem.
This is stupid, so I'm just
Yeah, while you log in, so you need to log in. I'll give you some time because a lot of people are watching, and maybe this is a good time also to share some of the answers that people gave in the questionnaire. So let me quickly share my screen also. Then the moderator can add it. Oh, let me see. Yeah, share. Okay. Yeah. So the first we asked, there are lots of first-time viewers because a lot of people registered also for this session. Thank you for that. And you can still answer with the Menti link, which you see below. And the second question was, do you use dataflows? Now, a lot of people love it that are watching, and some people are sometimes using it. Now, maybe this will help to use it more. And the last question is, where do you store your data? I see Excel quite a lot still, SQL, and indeed also so. But nobody has Blob storage as an answer, I see. So that's interesting. So thank you for answering. Are you okay? Are you in the portal?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Okay, cool. So in portal.azure.com.
So basically, Azure is like a big department store of all types of cloud services from Microsoft. And what we are interested in, I don't know why this now shows up in German. Let me see how I can.
You can leave it in German, or that's okay.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I'd like to. So I had to restart my computer and somehow let me do
region, I see on the left-hand side, the third option. Probably there you can change it. Yeah. Let's change it to English. And so dear LinkedIn user, indeed, I already mentioned it in the screen. You can watch all the episodes back on our YouTube channel. On Get Responsive.
So
did you change it?
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's good. So now what we have to do, we have to go to storage accounts here, or search storage accounts above, but here we see it already. And then we are going to create a storage account. So actually, this is something that where I usually say, make sure get in contact with an administrator in your company and do the setup together with them. So they usually have the correct, sufficient rights to do all that stuff, and that's usually takes you half an hour or so, and half an hour session to do all this together. And then you can forget about it because this only has to be done once. So I'm going to choose my subscription. Then I'm going to choose a resource group. If I don't have one, I create one. This is basically just an organizational group for Azure that you can basically allocate, manage the services you bought there. You have to give the storage account a name. Test block 2. Of course. And here the region, this should ideally match the region of your Power BI tenant. But here, where are we? Europe. Doesn't matter. So, and we have to change just one of the default settings. That's here on the Advanced tab. And here you see the hierarchical namespace. You have to click on it. And that's everything you need to do to connect it to Power BI later on. your IT might want to review these other settings here. That would be good, but in terms of what is needed for Power BI, it's only this click here. And so we're going to create that blob storage now. And after that it has been created, we need to assign some roles here for the connection from within Power BI.
And for people that have never used it, Imke, this blob storage, is it just, can I consider it just as a virtual drive? Is it a little bit like a SharePoint folder, OneDrive folder, or what is it physically?
It's just a very powerful virtual drive, exactly, which is also comparably cost effective. So it really doesn't, I believe, 100 gigabytes cost less than €2 a month. So
how much?
It's really not €2, less than €2.
Oh, wow. That's a lot less expensive because my SharePoint is almost full with 2 gigabyte, I believe, or 2 terabyte. What is it? 2 terabyte. If I then have to purchase
terabyte
space,
would be 20. Yeah,
it's a huge amount if you have to purchase OneDrive space. Yeah, but this is
so it's really not very expensive, I would say.
No.
So now we see that the deployment is complete. And then we can go to the resource. So this is basically the page of the newly created blob storage. And now we have to create some roles in there. Therefore, we go to access control and role assignments. And even if you're an admin and the admin, you have to assign yourself the owner role to the storage in order to connect to it from within Power BI. So I go to the privileged administrator roles, click on owner, and then I will add an assignment to it. So basically I will add myself to the owner role. Here, selected role is owner. I click on plus here to add a new member to it, and I am the demo user. Here, I select myself, and this should give me. Did it work? No. Demo. Demo. Select. Okay, so so you might want to. I'm giving myself highest privileges here. You might want to boil it down if necessary, but I'm using the full privileges here and click on review and assign. So now the role assignment will be added. And often it takes a while, but we can try it out now. Here I'm in Power BI, logged in with the same account. And in order to let me see whether I can change the language. How can we change the language here?
There, yeah.
Sorry about it. I had to restart my computer.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. You have all the time, so no worries.
Preparation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go back to my workspace. I choose a workspace. And to connect this workspace with this newly created storage account, I click on workspace settings. and on Azure Connections. And if storage account had been set up on the tenant level already, I would just have to click on here, but I didn't do it. So I have to connect to my own data lake storage account. And of course, the demo bot is with me now. It worked an hour before.
But so in the background, he's now creating the role for the blob storage, right? He's maybe still.
Of course, I'm
an
admin. I'm an admin on my Azure. I created all the accounts, but powerbi thinks that I don't have access to Azure subscription. That's annoying. Let me hang on a second.
No problem. Can happen. It's a demo. Take your time. So and when we were pre-discussing this, you also explained it, and that I think is also interesting for people that watch, because we use a lot SharePoint also probably as a data source. And what is annoying for me, it always takes a huge time to refresh then the data. And I tried it once with blob storage; it's way faster. So it's also beneficial to store it.
Absolutely. It's in general, Azure Blob it's a much faster storage than SharePoint, because in SharePoint there's so many metadata that will be transferred with each call. It's really if you can
slow.
If it's feasible, it's much better to use Azure Blob than SharePoint. Absolutely.
Now, if you can have a look whether you can fix it, that you see it, the option, or maybe if you have another blob already, maybe there, then you can of course also use that one.
If it's not working now, I will.
So in the workspace or the tenants, you need to say this is the storage that we want to use.
Exactly. So let me just see whether this will now work. I'm gonna sign into this one.
It's nice. We have a very international crowd today. So people are watching from Canada. Wow.
But no questions so far.
Estonia.
Are there any questions?
No, I don't think so. If there are any questions, let use the comments, because we still have some 20 minutes. So take your time, and we can answer them. And if I say we, I mean Imke, because I, to be honest, have not so many knowledge.
I don't know why this is not working now.
Can you switch to another one, you think?
But I mean, it's of course. So I have another workspace here that already has the settings. So you select your subscription, the resource group that we selected when creating this blob storage, and then just use your storage account name. So that's everything basically. There's one limitation to it. You can only do this if you don't have any data flows in your workspace yet. So you cannot connect a blob storage to a workspace that already has data flows in it. That's a limitation.
Okay.
But
and what does this do? What does this do, Imke? Because now you said this is the blob storage. What is the impact from that then? Or maybe you're going to show it. Why would you configure that?
The impact is that with every data flow refresh, so if I refresh the data flow now, a CSV file will create it back in the blob storage.
Already with this setting. So only by applying this setting, that will do it. Okay.
So here you see that I had 2 refreshes on this newly created data flow, and now the 3rd refresh is running.
Okay.
And if I go to the blob storage that I created for that demo purpose, that was, so where's my Azure? Oh, here. So that was That was not the storage 2, but that was the storage 1 connector. So if I go here, I see there's another blob store connector. If I go to storage browser and then on blob containers, I see a Power BI folder there. And in this Power BI folder, I will see one or multiple folders for each workspace. So each workspace that is connected to that storage will create its own folder. And in this folder, each data flow will get its own folder. And in that folders, you will see 2 folders, one for the demo table or multiple folders. The CSV folders will store the snapshots of each table in your data flow, and the model.json snapshots will store the metadata that has been created with each refresh. So each refresh will basically create 2 files, one CSV file with the data and one JSON file with the metadata of the data flow.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening with every data flow refresh.
Yeah, so we see the last one is indeed from 2 minutes ago. So that's the refresh you just did. And okay, cool. And it's even called snapshots. I didn't know that, but so indeed it's a snapshot of that particular refresh. And okay, so one more question, because one time, and really I'm not an expert at all, but when I used this blob one time 2 years ago, there is also a desktop application you can install, Azure Explorer, I think it's called, right? Which might make it even. I found that easy because it's a specific blob storage app. I don't need to do it via the browser, but I have an application. Do you use that also, or is that does it have limitations?
But actually, I don't do. Sometimes I use it, but I don't do that much with the Azure Blob. So I'm managing it.
Right.
Basically mostly with Power Automate. So if I clean it up or do some retention stuff, I use Power Automate for it. But you can use the desktop program is called Azure Data Studio.
Oh yeah.
And that's basically that allows you to connect to it and use it. Yeah.
I thought there was also Azure Explorer. Maybe I'm wrong, but there was a very simple application. It was a little bit like a OneDrive, so to say, and there I could also add files, for example, from my own local. I'm not sure. Maybe someone who watches knows what I mean, but for me it's too long ago.
It's an Explorer. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But no, I don't use it so much.
No. I found it quite easy, straightforward. Because
there's nothing. This data is there to be consumed and not to be managed, basically. So if we want to consume it, so how can we reference this data through from Power Query or Power BI? So let's open Power BI.
So hello Christian from Romania, and Henning, great that you're watching also. Yeah, it's indeed called Azure Storage Explorer. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
Can be handy.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can also then load your own files into the blob from your local file. Can be handy.
Yeah, that's true. If you,
but Power Automate is probably better, indeed. So I'm gonna add your screen again, Imke. So you're now in Power BI. Let's load some data.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay. So I go to get data, and then I go to Azure, and within that we have the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 connector. This guy here. So
not the Azure Blob Storage. I thought you would use that one then.
Yeah, you can also use Azure Blob Storage, the old connector basically, but you cannot use your Azure authentication for it. You have to use an API key or SaaS secret. So I would say best practice is to log in with your Office or Entra ID credentials. And in order to do that, you would use the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 connector.
Clear.
And there are two modi to it. First, I will show you how to use this CDM folder view modus. So we need a URL. And this is something that you need to know where to get from. So we're gonna... Where do we find this URL that we have to use in Power BI? We go to endpoints here in Blob Storage. And then we have to scroll down to the data lake storage endpoints. And from them, we need the primary endpoint. So this is the guide we have to copy and paste here. And then we choose our Power BI folder. We have the demo. We have the demo data flow. And then within the data flows, we have our snapshots. But if we click on them, I think we won't see anything. So this, don't be scared or afraid if you see nothing in there. You have to, instead of using these folders, snapshot folders, you have to use the latest one that has this symbol of a ton symbol. The latest storage one down here.
Storage icon.
Storage symbol. There you find your tables. So this is the table I loaded. And then you can transform the data on it.
So it's created in the blob storage, also a table containing all the free CSV files, but then in a table format. Is that what it does? Because we didn't see it in the blob, right? This storage option. So it's only visible by using this connector then, or did we see it in the blob? Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. But now I only see one for free.
Exactly. So that's just a very simple table. But it's
so that's what my data this is the content. Returns. Okay, does contain the content. Okay.
That's the content of my table.
Okay.
So that's that was a very simple table. And if we if you use that connector, you will always get the latest file with the correct column names on them. If we use the other modus, so if we want to see all files because we created some sort of a history in there, and we want to get all the files from within that folder, we need to use the other modus. So we need to use the file system view instead.
Yeah.
And copy that again. If you use that, we would get the file system view. So we see all files in there from all folders. And not only the CSV snapshots, but also our JSON data in there. So now you would have to start to filter this this view in order to just work with the data you want. So I say I only want to get the ones with CSV snapshots in them. I copy that and filter only on this. Now I have all my load history in there, and then I can basically use the from folder functionality to combine all the files in that folder. And basically, of course, in that case, I would keep the date created column, date modified. For some reason, the date created is empty, so I leave my date modified in it. Because if in that kind of use case, I would like to know the import dates as
And
well.
for the first one, it showed the last one then? What did it show in the demo table option then? Was it the last entry?
It's always the latest.
The latest.
Most recent.
So
it,
with
it,
that
that
option, it's
basically
latest.
reflects that basically reflects what you will see if you use the ordinary dataflow connector to it. And this is basically then the way to get all your snapshots. There's one drawback to this.
We're almost through our time, Imke. But I think there's a lot of no, that doesn't matter. Just to give you so what I'm curious about, so if because we use it as a data warehouse, so what if the scenario occurs that you have this, like you've mentioned for the social media, that it only has the last 30 days? How would that work to get then the full history in this table, I wonder?
That's what we see in here. So let me get back. So
but then
what
you have
we
some
did
double,
in here,
then you might have some double entries, right? Or that there is some overlap.
Yes, of course. That's you then have to decide how to manage. You have what you can do then is you go to your data flow and filter the data. So you grab what you would do is you would, when you create your data flow,
you could remove duplicates maybe.
Yes, it depends on how the data is structured and how you can determine which is the latest one. But so this is my new import here. What I could do is I can basically check. I can basically connect to my data warehouse and check what was the latest import date in there. So I'm just pasting the stuff in here. So of course, the data then would have a timestamp here, and I would query my blob storage and retrieve the latest day when the previous data flow has finished. I would grab that date and filter the data on that date and say, well, give me only the stuff that is after the latest timestamp in my blob storage. And then I would basically only add to it the data from my source that was there after that time. So
it's so it's mind blowing, so you're using the result, you copied it into the original data flow again, and then use that again to do all kinds of cool. You don't run into a circle then?
no.
How do you call it in Excel that you refer to each other? Okay.
Cirkelbezug. No.
No. Okay.
No, because it's completely two different things. And the data flow is not aware that the blob storage is
using this output.
Now querying is basically the same. It can then query itself and just work with it.
Circular reference. I was trying to find.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The nightmare in Excel. I have so many other questions, Imke, but our time unfortunately is out. And is there anything else that you wanted to tell, but now I'm cutting you off? What do you have some last remarks or suggestions?
I must admit my demo data wasn't too good because there's one limitation with this history view.
Yeah.
And that is that the original column names won't come with it. So the CSV data stores the data in column 1 to column 2, column 3, and so on. And you find the column names in the JSON file. So you have to, after you've imported it, you have to rename the columns to your original column names. Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's a one-time effort, right?
Types. Exactly. You can make it dynamic as well. Of course, you import the JSON and just create a function that automatically renames the stuff. If we had more time, we could have done that as a bonus, but yeah. this is
Maybe
something
next
that
time,
you might
Imke. I really
exactly.
appreciated that you gave such an extensive demo, and I hope everyone also who's watching liked it. We on
Mm,
purpose did it in full demo, not skipping any steps, so
great.
that everyone can also watch it back
Exactly.
and do it step by
Because
step. eh?
mm,
I appreciate it. Yeah.
yeah,
Now, thank you again that you wanted to join this session, Imke, because people are missing you. They said at the beginning. So
yeah.
maybe if you have more time again,
Mm,
people really appreciate how you share. So Koosje also is very. And Fernando in the beginning also said, "Where have you been?"
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, people really appreciated that you shared all this knowledge and. Now, Henning, as also maybe suggestion to fix this, use the headers as first row and then dataflow, maybe. That is maybe also an option. Then you have
It
at least
will.
there
It
the
won't work. Yeah.
won't work. Oh,
Depends. Yeah.
it
No,
depends.
it depends.
Uh,
I mean, might be. Yeah.
yeah, but thank you for thinking with us, Henning. So everyone is now. Thank you for all the nice words. That's for you,
Yeah.
Imke. Thank you again. Next week we're back, and also then I'm trying to talk English because then we have a very special guest, also Brian Julius. So he's
Oh,
our
I
next
do.
week's guest.
Super.
Do you know
Yeah.
him? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's sharing a
Yes.
lot
Yes.
of
Yes.
content,
Yeah.
and
Super.
we're gonna talk about what 6 Power BI superpowers you should, own or have to own Power
Mm.
BI. So what is the key things you need to
Yeah. Great
master?
topic. Yeah.
Yeah, nice, right?
Mm.
And he did earlier,
Yeah.
10 months ago, he told me he made a post out of that. And it was watched by 800,000 people. I have that in 1 year,
Mm.
but he had it with one post.
Super.
So
Yeah.
let's do a video about that, I thought. Maybe
Mhm.
apparently people like it. So we're gonna discuss those
Yeah.
and probably we'll take some side steps on AI and what's going on in Power BI because I know he has so much insights and knowledge and opinions. So we're gonna have.
Mm.
So if you like that, join us next week on Thursday, 4 o'clock, and you can watch all episodes back on our YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching. Have a nice day, and maybe see you next week. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks, Joe,
Wibke.
for having me. Thanks all
Bye.
for
Yeah.
attending. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.